Traffic stop trouble. An officer attacked by a driver when he's asked to get out of the car. It's a story you'll see only on Local 4 tonight. It didn't take long for things to escalate after that stop.
But that officer fought back and used restraint. Jermont Terry live in Taylor with the dash cam video. Jermont?
Devin, we've heard it over and over again. There is no such thing as a routine traffic stop. And what this Taylor officer experienced shows just that. He found himself fighting a driver soon after pulling this man over. It's a fight for control. A Taylor police officer scuffles with a man. Sunday afternoon, the officer pulled over a car on Inkster Road off I-94 for making an illegal left turn.
Hey, you got a license?
Yeah.
You do have a license?
To be honest with you, I don't. I ain't got a license.
The officer wants the driver to step out of the car, and right when he tries to cuff him,
Hands down on your back.
punches are thrown and the two are tossed to the ground. At one point, the officer said the man reached for his weapon.
Fortunately, the officer was able to retain his weapon, and that did not happen.
Look closely. You can see the officer's radio dangling so it's disconnected, preventing him from calling for help.
During the foot pursuit, was able to regain radio contact and called for backup.
But in the midst of it all, this officer pulled out his weapon only after the man ran away, but he never fired.
I give the officer credit for using the restraint, not to fire the weapon.
Steve Dolan, a retired DPD assistant chief, stresses even though this officer squared up with the guy, once the suspect, identified as Jonathan Boyd, broke free, that was not enough to pull the trigger.
You can shoot a felon who's armed and poses an immediate threat. This guy is just running from the police. So the officer is right, I believe, in not shooting at the individual.
Now, you heard that driver say that he did not have a license, but it turns out he also had 3 felony warrants out of Wisconsin. And tonight he is sitting behind bars, charged with assaulting and resisting an officer, and also has a $10,000 cash bond. Now, we should point out that this Taylor officer had a few bruises, but tonight he is back on the job.
Traffic stop escalates into a violent encounter. The driver was defiant, but was the officer's response justifiable?
And you could be the judge because the incident was caught on dash cam. Fox 2's Randy Wimberly is live in Taylor. We understand the ACLU is asking for an investigation. Randy?
Yeah, they want the Taylor Police Department to retrain its officers and revamp its policies when it comes to traffic stops after that violent arrest. They're saying it's something that both the public and police should learn from.
What charges? On what charges?
Police dash cams were rolling as a Taylor officer broke open a window and, with the help of 3 other cops, pulls 26-year-old Calvin Jones from his car. He reportedly blacked out after being put in a chokehold during the arrest. It all happened last April during a traffic stop and is now the subject of an internal investigation at Taylor PD.
I'm not giving you my information until you tell me what you're supposed to do. Here's the deal. Either give me your ID or you go to jail.
It all started with an argument between Jones and the arresting officer. Jones refused to hand over his driver's license and registration upon request, which he's required to do by law.
There are law enforcement professionals who suggest that in a situation like that, the officer does not have to win the debate.
ACLU attorney Mark Fancher.
If the officer had told Mr. Jones at the outset, I stopped you because I saw you run a stop sign, that would have eliminated that entire discussion.
And possibly prevented this.
If you look at the force continuum, you're allowed to use the level of force necessary to overcome whatever resistance you have to arrest.
We showed the videos to former Detroit Police Chief Ralph Gonby. He says the officer had grounds to make the stop and question Jones, but could and should have avoided this violent ending.
Did he go too far? I think most reasonable people would say from a policy standpoint, there's an opportunity for some training. Simply, if the policy was just advise the gentleman what he's being stopped for. We're trained in verbal judo, how to de-escalate situations. Just because something is legal to do doesn't necessarily mean it's the right thing to do.
Jones's brother-in-law was also arrested, as was his wife. She pleaded with Jones to comply with officers' demands and was recording the incident with her cell phone when police told her to hand it over. She tossed it instead.
That mere act should not, at least from our perspective, result in the arrest of someone who was trying to cooperate with police.
Fancher says Jones, after being taken into custody, was made to strip to his underwear and then put into a holding cell.
He says that at some point he was made to lie face down on the floor, that the air conditioning was turned down to a very low temperature, and that he on his own decided to get up off of the floor but was still left in his underwear for an extended period of time.